And welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I do hope you're having a wonderful day. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. So thank you very much. Now, today, I wanted to talk about something that basically just gives a concrete example of what I've been saying about the SEC not so long ago. So I've mentioned that the SEC lost to XRP, and I think also the SEC lack of clarity around crypto, and I mean to the point where their chairman cannot even say if Ethereum is a security or not, which is a project that has been out for almost 10 years. And by the way, the Gary Gensler, he applied to be an advisor to Binance, and he was refused, and all of a sudden his hatred or his persecution of Binance has been off the charts. You know, call it a coincidence, call it whatever you want. It's just a fun fact in all of this. But what I mentioned at the time was the win against the SEC of XRP bullish or not? And I've mentioned it was actually short-term bullish, but over the long run, it didn't matter much for the crypto industry. Why? Very simple. Because if the US falls behind other regions on the crypto space, the innovation will just go someplace else. And I've mentioned actually at the time that London used to be the world capital of finance in the world until it moved to New York after the regulator in the UK had a terrible positioning against an innovative product at the time, and then they had to play catch up with the rest of the world. New York took the lead, and London was never the capital of the world for finance anymore. And I said, if the US behaves like, not the US, but if the regulator in the US does the same, the innovation will just go cross borders. Now, here is the example. The first spot Bitcoin ETF has just been listed in Euronext Amsterdam, which is the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. This was actually approved in 2021, in 2022. And by the way, this is a good example of what I said yesterday around how big money can also be stupid. So they postponed the ETF last year in 2022 because of the FTX collapse and Terra Luna collapse, etc. But think about if they had done it in September, October, now their ETF performance would be nothing but up, right? And it would be a great marketing tool for new people to buy in. But in any case, this is just a little side note here. And what I'm saying is, so Europe already has their own spot ETFs. It cannot be leveraged, so it's much more difficult to be manipulated by derivatives, etc. So, but that's another story. And then Singapore also is passing regulation on stablecoins. And if you contrast that to the US, which cannot even define if Ethereum is a security or not, the only thing in the US that we know, funny as it sounds, is that XRP is not a security. But other than that, we have very little clarity in the US. Now, this is bad for us who live in the US. And it's bad for US citizens in general because they get on a worse position for a new industry versus other regions. But for the crypto industry overall, as I mentioned, the innovation will just go elsewhere. Now we already have the spot ETFs approved in Europe. One of them is about to list or just listed, which is the one that I just referred. Singapore coming out with stablecoin regulation, while the US falls further behind. And this is simply what's going to happen. If the US keeps on this stance, keeps doing what they're doing currently, on the short term, it's going to be bearish, but over the long run, just means the US gets left behind, and then they will need to play catch up. That's my feeling. That's the reason why I feel that sooner or later, and I guess sooner, Mr. Gary Gensler will be invited out. Now, of course, I would be surprised if he would be outright fired, but you need to understand that he's creating a lot of pain, not only on the crypto side, by the way, but also on generally on the company side as well. He's basically disliked by both parties, and I do think it's a matter of time before he leaves. Otherwise, for the crypto world, which is what we are interested more, this is a clear example of exactly what I've been saying, is that innovation will just go someplace else, the US will fall behind, the world will move on, and ETFs will be listed someplace else, regulation will be passed someplace else, real clarity will be provided across the board, and the US and unfortunately its citizens get deprived of a new industry maturing. Now, if that industry grows to be what I expect to be as important and as big as the internet was, then it's amazing how one institution and essentially one guy can put a country so further behind certain things after basically missing everything. So this entity, the SEC, loved Sam Bankman-Friedman and FTX. They also didn't see anything during 2008. In fact, some of them were allegedly applying to go for banks, the people they were supposed to supervise to protect us, right? Sure. And unfortunately, this is the world we live in. Good thing there's something called regulatory arbitrage, which means that just because the US does something stupid, just because London and the UK did something stupid in the past, that doesn't mean that the world around them cannot flourish, which is exactly what's happening. So I just wanted to leave this here as an example of what I've been saying for quite some time, and I will catch you in the next one, guys.